Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're just letting a few guys in. So good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, morning.
Morning, everybody. Morning.
Morning, all morning.
Morning. We have Tobago in the house. Tobago's in the house. Coach Austin, how are things there in Tobago this morning? Coach Austin, are you hearing me?
I was just about to put my volume on. Morning, Dion. Morning. How you doing?
Morning. How are things in Tobago? Tell us about things in Tobago. How are things in Tobago this morning?
Let me give you a little view of what current outside.
Now, people might want to get up and go to the beach here. Be careful. You know,
Morning, everybody.
Well,
morning. Colin is out in the US. So Colin, you want to show you the beach? You wanted to come back home so bad, man.
Listen, every time you mention Tobago, the first thing come to mind is South.
All right.
Well done, Colin. Well done, Colin.
The man didn't even say Taylor, boy. That's it. Or double.
Yeah.
That's South.
George, I'm not hearing you.
No.
You got to speak up for the Trinity food, Jefferson.
That sounds different. It's just different.
Well said, Colin. Well said, Colin.
Jefferson George, I need to hear you, please.
Morning. It's raining heavily here, so I don't know if you're getting any if that coming through the mic.
No, we want you to keep the rain. We go on Tobago with the sun. I know you bring the rain. Where are you from? What part of the world that rain is coming from?
I'm in Claxton Bay, South Trinidad.
Claxton Bay. Anybody knows what part of the world is that?
So, Dion, you've seen my view, right?
Yeah, thank you, buddy. Thank you, Jefferson. Thank you.
All right. So Dion, you see my view?
You. Yeah, so what we're gonna do, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Name is Dion Lapka, Technical Director of the Trinidad Football Association. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to ask Jefferson George. Jefferson, please, to open us in a prayer this morning, Jefferson.
Okay. Father God, we give you praise, we give you thanks, honor, and glory. We thank you for this opportunity, this platform where even though we are separate from one another in distance, we can be here in mind and in a collective spirit. Father God, I pray that you would open our minds, open our hearts. We thank you for our brother Colin, who is on with this morning to share with us. I pray that you would even help him as he speaks to us, that we'll be able to receive, dear God. We pray that you help us to continue to work together, help us to be only together in common purpose, that we'll be able to move the game of football forward in Trinidad and Tobago. We ask these things through Christ our Lord, who reigns forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jefferson. And before I introduce you guys, we want to make this very, very interactive. Right? We want to make this very, very interactive. So Colin is going to be taking you through, it's just going to be very, very interactive. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome on set today Mr. Colin Rocke, right? Those of you who, well, back like me, born in the 60s, all right? You would have seen Colin, heard about Colin playing for St. Mary's College and having an illustrious career, leave after college, after high school in Trinidad, playing with our national teams and so on, going on to play abroad. Colin, welcome.
Thank you, Dion, and good morning, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of my history and my past and part of what has got me to the place I am today.
Great. So Colin, what I want to start off by doing is asking you, just to tell us a little bit of your journey, and we'll get to where you are right now, but a little bit of your journey. Just talk us through that journey a little bit as a youth growing up, and because obviously now you're not a top coach. But before we go there, just talk us through the journey a little bit. And coming from Trinidad and Tobago, please.
Okay. Where do I start? I grew up in Santa Cruz. My parents were my dad's a policeman and my mom's a teacher. She was a principal, actually. She passed away 2 years ago. But so there was a little bit of discipline in our household. I always open up with saying that because it's part of why I got to the place I am today. It was important for us to take care of our schoolwork. And it was also important for us to have activities outside of that. I was blessed with some talent and athleticism. And I actually, growing up in Trinidad, I loved football more than I love food. I trained on my own. I worked just as hard as anybody on and off the field. But I also had some very interesting things that were told to me from my dad that I think it created like this desire to, be better than everyone else. And as I go through life, I notice more and more all the most successful people in the world, they have the exact same thing. It's a passion, it's an intensity. And that intensity is what drives them ahead of other people in different areas. So my dad told me I was only 9 years old, and he said, if you are going to be better than other people, when you're asleep, they're working, and you have to think like that all the time. And I've taken it all through my whole life. So I mean, just think of it as a kid. You're 9, you're getting ready to go take CXC, and you're realizing in everything you do in this life, if you're not preparing more than the next person, then you're unprepared. Very, very simple, very basic. But for me, it started me running 2 miles every morning before school. When I was at CIC, I was running every morning. I'd run home from school, and I live in Santa Cruz. I'd run from Port of Spain to Santa Cruz. We would train and I'd run home. It was consistent with almost everybody I ever knew that got to a high level. Naked used to live in Laventille, and Naked ran home from Laventille. He'd run into Rima to train and run back. It's just, when you think about it, it sounds like it's crazy, but it's just kind of what separates you in life from other people. So that was how I started. My upbringing was through there. Obviously, the national youth teams at that time, we had a lot of people very close to me, like Brian Lara lived maybe 10 minutes from my house. Brian Lara was from Santa Cruz too. Russell lived right down the road, Marvin Foston, right in Barataria. A lot of these guys live close. So we were on the same zone. We were on the same side all the time. So when I got into youth teams, these are the people that were around me. And then coming up, because of my academics and my parents pushing it, I had to try and get in a good school. I ended up getting into St. Mary's. And to be honest, in St. Mary's, I thought I was an average student. I wasn't that great at school. I didn't push at school. I pushed everything else. Mostly was football. So when I got to college, I realized what my mom was trying to explain to me about the importance of academics. And I realized that if I didn't have it behind me, I couldn't go anywhere, because there are very few people that survive on one part or one concept of their lives. So I in college is when I thought I excelled more in school. I did much better, but I also put more energy into it. And I really didn't want to go to school. At 16, I had an opportunity to go to Man United, and the manager was sacked, Atkinson. So I didn't go. And that really disappointed me. All of us, Russell, Clint Marcel, myself, Marvin, we all wanted to go play pro. None of us wanted to go to school. But I had that push behind me from my folks at home. So I ended up going to college. And it was actually the best path I think I could have taken, because 4 years there, I had 2 good opportunities to play pro. And I didn't leave again because my mom was like, you have to finish school before you go do this. Do one thing in your life at a time. So, now a lot of people get drafted and they leave college early. And sometimes they don't finish up. Sometimes they come back and try to finish. Sometimes they get hurt. I didn't want to run that risk. So I thought to myself, in high school, I won a lot of games in national team. We won a lot. When I went to college was when I realized that the work is really what makes it pay off. And in college, we won 2 national championships. My junior year, I was drafted to Dallas, to Indo, because that was the biggest league in the US at that time. And we won 2 championships then too. So I won them back to back and back to back. After that, the MLS tried to pick us up because the MLS was now coming in and we couldn't get in. So I had to leave and go to Germany, to Wolfsburg for a year, come back, and then try to get into the MLS. I got hurt after that. I got an injury, I tore my ACL. And that is where the college part comes in and the academics. So I actually opened up my laptop and I built a business, took it to the bank, and I got a loan for $250,000. And I opened my own indoor soccer arena, which was another, turning point in my life. So I did recover from the injury. I had this soccer arena for 10 years and it generated a lot of revenue. And I was very, very blessed and fortunate for that. It also opened up a lot of other doors for me that, I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to open. I ran the very first Junior Olympics for indoor soccer in the United States. I ran it through my facility. Hundreds of kids come through that facility that end up getting opportunities at colleges and scholarships. So shortly after that, I was back playing in Charleston. And then I decided after a couple of years of playing, it might be better to stop playing when I'm still able to walk. So actually I stopped playing a little early. I was like maybe 31 or 32. I stopped playing and managed a business for a few more years and then started directing clubs, soccer clubs. So if you think about it, everything that I was doing coming through life was helped me get to this point that I am right now. So during that time, right after I stopped playing, I very quickly went and got all the licensing. I did all of the courses back to back to back. So I got the B professional and the A professional right away so that I could be ahead of the class. And this is part of what I was telling you, Dion, a little bit when I was talking about, our coaches and the people that we have very good, smart people. We have a lot of people that believe in what we do and they understand the game. But it's always coming down to your body of work that gets you where you need to be. So after getting licenses, I ran the clubs. I built a nice home down there. And then I got a job back in Dallas. So I came back. The club was Liverpool. Strangely enough, we were directly affiliated with them. I went over there several times, kind of studied the way the academy was managed and run, and learned even more that it wasn't, even from playing, when we played, the culture was important. How we ate was important. How we rest was important. How we train was important. When you start going into the academies in some of these top countries in the world, you realize the game is a lot more scientific. They put a lot more energy into developing not just the minds and the attitudes of the players. The part about the physical and playing part, it's a small part. It's everything that's behind them. They're mentally tougher. They're prepared to be that way. They don't ever quit. They never come up against each other when things aren't going well. They understand how to work and battle together. And it comes from that whole scientific approach. So I realized bringing that back to the US, to our academy here, we had Liverpool for 10 years. I became director there at Liverpool in Dallas. And then we got an opportunity from Puma and BVB, because what we created in the US was 12 affiliates. So we created from one club just in Dallas, clubs all over the United States. And a lot of people weren't able to do that here. I mean, there's some that do, but they have to have a really strong brand to carry it. And you have to be able to manage it correctly. So because of that, BVB approached us with Puma. And then I became the vice president of the company of BVB. So we now have 10 new affiliates for BVB in the US. I've been there to Germany and to their academy, try to recognize the differences. But now I'm trying to grow the brand in the US.
So Colin, tell me, I want to take you back a little bit more. Did you, when you started off in Trinidad, obviously a youth, and you had your struggles, but you as somebody just put in the chat, you did all your running, and somebody said you ran to success.
Yeah.
But think about it, Colin. Did you see yourself becoming a top coach? Was that in your mind, or was it that because look, my knees are not all the best, I'm just going to take this part, and because I love the game, I'm going to open an indoor facility? Tell us a little bit about was that in your mind, or it just kind of happened? Is that a focus that you had? And the reason I'm asking you this, Colin, is you have coaches in Trinidad and in the Caribbean who and Tobago who think that, well, if we are born here in the Caribbean, going and making it abroad as a coach, that's really a challenging thing. So kind of, how does that happen?
First of all, I always live 5 years ahead. So when I say I live 5 years ahead, I always plan for where I'm going to be 5 years from now. So I've been doing that almost all my life. So I just broke down like 35 years of football in my life. But in reality, when I live, I always told myself there are different phases that you're going to have to go through as someone who loves the game. You become an academy kid, then you become a player. So you're developing all the time. After you become a player, the next step is you coach, because then you become the teacher. So first you're learning, then you're teaching. And the last phase is when you just want to be the fan. When I don't want to coach anymore, or I feel like, I'm getting to that further stage in life, God spare I live long enough, then I want to become a fan. I want to go to all the games. I want to go different places in the world, watch teams play, enjoy the game, So my whole intention in life was to go through those stages. And I knew that from when I was young. I always grew up around a lot of older people. I never hung out really with guys my age unless they were on teams, like the national team or the high school team. Other than that, all the guys I played with, like in Santa Cruz, they were older than me. They helped like educate me and make me aware of what you're going into down the road. So I always had that plan to coach at some point. I didn't know it'll get to be this. But again, I was blessed, and I was fortunate that in my background, my mom's a principal. We had to read the newspapers in the car every morning on the way to school. So I grew up with being able to teach, being able to tell someone something that I could do and get them to understand how to do it. And I think that's what teaching is, It's not just the patience of accepting that someone doesn't know something. It's being able to tell them how to do it and then actually getting them to do it. So I was really lucky to win a lot. I mean, I've won so many state cups, taken teams to regionals and stuff. It's crazy. I've been fortunate to win a lot, but I think it's because I'm a good teacher. So after the playing part, I realized what really made me stop was I took a high school team and won the state cup. They had never won before. And it was a private school, a small school, very wealthy people, but we won the whole thing. And after that, it never stopped. It was like, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And that's why I said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I got to educate myself. I got to make sure that on the coaching level, I can apply principles and I understand tactics and I understand what other people are trying to do. I understood the game from growing up and I had some very good coaches in my lifetime, but I needed to know how to teach the game and to teach it the correct way. So that's part of why I think that pool pattern followed. So it didn't just fall into my lap. I was thinking ahead of time.
I love what you said earlier, you know, planning 5 years ahead. In 5 years' time, where would I be? You know, some people don't even plan a week ahead, but you're planning five years ahead. I want you to go into coach education. Did you, obviously you're into the game and as a professional player, you know, you would have had a certain experience in the game, but what do you think was some of the challenges in coach education, and how did you overcome that?
Well, the biggest challenge is trying to understand that there are multiple ways of doing things. You know, we have two platforms, and it's funny how they're the same everywhere. Barcelona's got it, Liverpool had it, BVB has it. And so everywhere I've come across the game at a high level, we have a sports session planner, you know, where we have access to it, and there are thousands and thousands of different drills and training sessions that are put on by people all over the world. And so my biggest challenge was coming out of the element of thinking that the things that you know or that have been successful are the only things that work. If you're not evolving with the game, you're actually not evolving. So when you think that, oh, well, I've run this session and I've run this session and I know that, you know, it works, there are multiple ways of doing it that can get your teams to understand what you're doing. So the biggest challenge for me was getting away from that, because if you know, and all you guys on here are coaches, you know, directors, or you manage or run clubs, you can very easily fall into that consistent doing one thing one way and not realize that you're not challenging yourself. So as a coach, my biggest challenge was to challenge myself to change things and not be set in any one way. And that's why I love watching sessions and listening to other people, because coaches are the biggest thieves there are in the world when it comes to taking one thing that they get from someone else and reproducing it in their own light, you know? So I love watching sessions because I take them and I break them down. And I say, okay, this session I can use, but I'm going to do this, this, and this differently, you know? So the challenge for a lot of us is that we have things that we do that we've been successful with as coaches, but you have to understand that there are lots of ways of doing it. And then there are ways that kids and older players, I mean, I coach a semi-pro team, and I never realized how much older guys and older females, how little they want to do on the technical side. And that's a huge part of the game at any level. You know, they want to do all the actual physical training. They want to do all the game-oriented stuff. They don't want to work so much on the technical. But I instilled that was one of the most important things that we had to do, because I'm a technical player. So that challenge of getting set in a mindset that you've arrived, or that you've done a lot, or you know a lot, you never know enough. So that's been the biggest challenge and change for me, because as a player, a lot of what I did was natural. You know, a lot of my ability was natural. I could run. I was very technical. I was probably one of the top 1v1 players in the country. But as a coach, you're teaching. So you have to have more ideas than and now they have access to YouTube and everything else on the internet. So they can see some of the, you know, different sessions that other people are running. If you're not always changing and making it challenging, then the interest from the players becomes less and less. And then you start losing them. So the challenge is to always keep upgrading yourself, educating yourself, preparing yourself, making it fun and different for them all the time.
You know, what you're alluding to there, Colin, you know, they said knowledge is power, right? And power is influence. You know, as coaches, we all want to be very, very influential to our players and to our fellow coaches and so, but you have to have knowledge. You know, you know, and like yourself and some of the top coaches in the world, they spend a lot of sacrifice and learning philosophy and then methodology. How do you apply that knowledge? Because it's, as you said, as a top player, Colin, you were very, very gifted. As somebody, one of the guys also put in the chat. What I would like the participants to do, because I want this to be very, very interactive. If you could use the raise hand option, I mean, you could start preparing some questions for Colin, right? That'll be really, really good. So it's not about me, myself and Colin. If y'all could use the raise hand option, and start, you know, because I already want you guys to ask Colin some questions about coaching. Colin, while they, and I know a lot of people are going to ask questions, how important it is for coaches to work together. So you know, Colin, we say here in this country, we sometimes have what we call a crab in the barrel mentality, because everybody wants to be that guy. Everybody wants to be that person, that coach who has produced the next Dwight York, the next Colin, the next top female player. How important is togetherness in coaching? And can you also give us, it's a two-part question in the sense of examples of where you saw that togetherness. But how important, firstly, is togetherness, working together as coaches?
So it was one of the things that really, because if you think about it this way, I left Trinidad at 17, 18 to come here. And in this country, everything is competitive. Everyone's just trying to be first, right? They're trying to win. Everybody wants to be that top person, just like you're explaining. And it was interesting when I started experiencing being at Liverpool, being at BVB, being in academies around the world, that the coaches were like their own teams, you know? None of them acted like they were more important than the other one. And they always shared ideas. And when I came back to manage the clubs that I manage, that was the number one thing that I thought was a little bit of a challenge for the coaches. You know, they have a lot of coaches that they're good, they're not bad coaches, but they coach with an arrogance that they know more than anyone else, you know, or they know more than the players, so, you know, they're ahead of them. But as coaches, the only way that we're continuing to grow is by sharing ideas. And feeling comfortable enough with each other that we're on the same level, you know? Even though I manage and run a company, I go out and when I walk out to the parks, I mean, we have 9 facilities out here lighted, good fields, you know, indoor facility, and I walk out there and the coaches see me. The last thing that they ever think is that they're intimidated because I'm there. And that's because we do coaching seminars and coaching education with our groups. We bring them into the indoor facility, we go into the classroom, we share ideas, we go out, and I highlight different people to run sessions. And then as coaches, we value the sessions and we all take it in, and we take the positives and negatives, you know, and everybody walks away with something benefiting from it. And it's so for us, we are not in competition with each other. I don't know how to make that more clear. We are the facilitators of the growth and development of players, whether it be youth or adult. So we are not in competition. We are learning and benefiting from each other. So it's really important that as coaches, we share. You should be able to pick the phone up and say, hey, Jared, what's going on? I run a session tomorrow, and these are some of the complications I have with the group. You know, I can't get this done, or I can't get him to do this. What do you think? What are some of your ideas? And be able to share those ideas, grow, and then put it into effect. But if we are walking around thinking that we're in competition, then we're not even just battling people on the field, we're battling each other. You know, we're slowing each other down in our own growth.
So, Colin, give an example. Like, let's say one of the clubs you went to, whether it's Dortmund, Mr. Dortmund, you know, which club did you go to, and you had a chance to see the coaches interact for the betterment of the sport. And the reason I asked you that is, I remember when I went to Birmingham City, I was privileged to get an opportunity to go on at their academy, and I remember sitting in the academy director's office and listening to them planning a coaching session.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, you know, look at these guys discuss the game, and they were correcting each other and making suggestions, and it was not anything. Nobody took anything personal.
Yeah.
Give an example of where have you noticed that?
So,
Because you've been different places.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the two best ones were Liverpool and BVB. It's just they have two different cultures there. BVB at that time, that was the year they lost. That was the closest they had been. We left and went to BVB right after they won the championship. But the year before I was there, and so we have a session. So what they did, I went in there we brought 16 coaches from the US. So we took all the directors from different facilities and we brought them across to work in the academy, right? So some of these sessions were run by some really top guys. And I was sitting there, I had a picture in there with Ian Rush. And he was like a hero to me when I was going on. And I didn't like Liverpool. I was a Man U guy. But Ian Rush was one of the most clinical finishers I had ever seen. He was deadly. But he was talking to me right before we met with the session. And he was like, this session you're going to go into right now is in the classroom. And he said, there's going to be about 8 Liverpool coaches in there. So we went into the session and there were a bunch of coaches in there. And they had the kids in there too. So they were going to talk about the session, plan it. They showed a video, and then they asked the kids questions. And then the coaches interacted about how the session was going to be run. A couple of the younger coaches managed the warm-up and the fitness part. A couple of the more mature coaches managed the technical and tactical part. And while we were in there, the kids asked questions to the coaches about the session, but the coaches asked each other questions. I'd never seen that before because it was the first time. It seemed like when they were asking a question, I was thinking, are they challenging the coach because they don't believe it's right? But in actuality, what they were doing, they were trying to make the coach give the reasons for the purpose. Why? This is why we're doing it. And it was so clear to me that if they didn't feel comfortable doing it all the time, if somebody asked me a question about how I'm running a session and among coaches, I would think to myself before, they might not think I'm very good, but that wasn't the case at all. They were trying to get them to bring out what their purpose was. And I like that, you know, and the coaches weren't afraid to do it. The same thing happened in BVB, except it was a little different because they have a more flamboyant, more attacking, more intense driven personality about how they play. But in BVB, it was, the coaches were trying to tell us, this is why I would like to do something in a session. What do you guys think? You know, so they will say, okay, we want to run the session. I'm going to run this part like this. What do you all think? And we'd come up with some ideas, you know, and we'd talk about it a little bit. And then you will change some of it, you know, to fit. And then they'll run the session. And in the session, the questions were asked again. Is it working? You know, are they picking it up quick enough? And some of the coaches will say at that point, let's change this or change. But that right there is what growth is. That's another form of it. You know, just getting the ideas, not being afraid to share them, and not being afraid to change them so it works. So yeah, those are some experiences that I'm telling you, after I came back from some of those, I just was like, wow. When I met with coaches, I didn't want them to feel uncomfortable. I don't want them to feel I know more than they do. I've just been fortunate to have some experiences. And some coaches on this chat have had more experiences than both of us put together. We don't know what those are, but sharing those experiences can help me be a better coach, a better person. So that's just how I've always been living since I've had some of these experiences.
And what you're saying there, especially in a smaller island, or twin island,
Mhm.
how can we work together and see that we are helping players for Trinidad and Tobago to
Yeah.
produce better players, and not, and I love what you said about we are not competing with each other. We are not competing. I know it, especially in America and some of the more dense population, there's always about market share. You know, we
Yeah.
want to get more kids to come to our training sessions.
That's
And
correct. Yeah.
you know what happens, Colin, when these players have to sit next to each other. You're from one club, I'm from another club, and we meet in a national team.
Mhm.
You know, and depending on what our coaches have said about your club, and your coach said about my club, we have to work past that. It's a game, and we're going to compete, and it's a competitive environment. You know, what I would like is, let's get some questions from some guys in the chat. I have a few more questions for you, Colin, but let's get some questions from in the chat. Come on, coaches, please, come on, don't be shy.
Morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Go ahead, please.
Coaching.
Sorry, just say again.
Yeah, my question is, why did he get into coaching?
Why did I?
Get into coaching.
Well, somebody said my lighting is bad. I don't like it. I don't like everybody see my face too. Especially, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. It's 7:45 here.
Hey, that's the humility of the coach. It's about the players. It's not about me. I like that.
So, like I said, I got into coaching because I know there's a natural progression in football from playing to coaching to spectating, right? But I really got into it because while I was playing, after I got hurt and I was playing back in Charleston, I came back during the break to coach, and I won a state cup with a team that had never won before, a high school. And immediately I knew I had a gift for teaching the game. So at that point, that's when I told myself, and I got paid really well for it too. That didn't hurt. It didn't hurt at all. But at that point, I got offered a job as a director right after we won. And then I had to make a decision about going back to play or starting to change my course a little bit towards direction of coaching. And I was already in my 30s. So I was like, you know what? I'm healthy. I could play minor league. I could play indoor. I had an indoor facility. And so I was also managing another business. So I decided, you know, this coaching thing might be cool. I mean, it's fun and I'm successful at it. So I started pushing towards it more and more. And that's why I stopped playing and going into coaching.
Beautiful. Now, also too, like in Trinidad, most of us, like, we only have what you call the C license. And it's difficult for us to go further in terms of improving that your licensing status. Is there any words you could give us, or any way you all could help us to improve that side of us?
I talked to Anton and Alvin Corney. Or Anton Corney. We talked because I go to the coaches convention every year. It's held in different states over here. And there are some foreign coaches at the convention. So I don't, I think I understand that we're limited in some ways to what we can get, but the world's not closed for us to go study and get it somewhere else. We can all try to find means and ways of getting it. So if we're limited right now to DC, I know there's several guys who've gone and left the country, get the license, come back. I know Wayne Shepherd and I talk a lot. And he's gone outside. He's coaching now in Taiwan, but he's going outside to get his license. I've had coaches call me from Trinidad and come over to the academy and spend a week. And they watch our sessions. They watch how the coaches are handling the kids, how the clubs run. And then the next week they leave and they go to do a course. So there are ways to find, access to doing it outside. And Dion would be a person who would be the right person to contact to get that information, because I'm sure he's aware of how to get there. But we can't limit ourselves to what we have there. And this is another thing that I said. I had a podcast, a couple of guys had me on a podcast the other day. And I said, unless we start allowing ourselves to grow and change the culture and mindset of our people, we will continue to spin on wheels. We have to keep growing. We have so many smart, good coaches. And just like you're saying, you feel limited, you know, because it's like everything else there. If you can't buy something here in one place, there's 20 other places you can get it. In Trinidad, if you can't get it in one or two places, you can't get it, you know? And we have that mindset that we think we can't get it, but I'm telling you, it's available. It's available. You just have to find the means to get out and get it.
Okay. Keon Williams. Keon, can you ask your question, please? Keon?
Thanks, Dion. Colin, what would we need to get an affiliate of BVB, or I guess your academy in Trinidad? Is it a question of population?
Yeah,
like what
the president
us?
of my club, he and I have been flirting with that idea for like the last 2 years. We are going to talk to a group down there. We need to have a facility in Trinidad, and we will more than likely, we do it here now. We will have to support it some in making sure that it's, you know, of the right level, because in order for BVB to allow us to get the facility, they have to have coaching staff that's licensed, experienced. They have to have a facility that's at a level that kind of replicates what they have. They have to have consistency in kit and how they carry themselves. There's a lot to be said for the way that teams are managed and how they appear to the public. And this brand that we carry, it carries a lot of value. BBB is in the top 5 in the world as far as a brand for football. They make more money than almost most of the clubs in the world, but it's how they manage the brand. So we have to have all those things clear. We need a director down there that will make sure that it's being run appropriately. But we're going to try to do one in Trinidad, because the president was saying, you know, we should have a club in Trinidad, and we could go down, you know, once a year and do a camp, bring coaches from over here, bring the Germans in and have them run a camp so the kids get a different voice, a different experience. But we have to grow it the right way. Find the facility and making sure that it's protected and disciplined and organized. And when people drive by, they say, hey, that's BVB. It's very different from our culture, you know. I train in teams where we had practice gear down there, and people would come in whatever they wanted. It didn't matter. You know, we have a practice kit, but you wear green shorts and everybody wearing black and gray, you know. They can't have that. They can't have it here. If a kid doesn't come in the right training gear here, they go home. They go home. It's really simple. They have to be disciplined. Everybody wears and does the same things. So we can do it. We have to find a smaller club so we can grow it, because we want to grow it the right way. If you got a big club and you try to do it, there'll be too many inconsistencies and too many people that will fight against things, you know. People don't buy in very easily. Then to be able to facilitate this brand, you have to buy in.
What I also like to and thank you, Kendall Rez, for putting in the chat. You guys look in the chat. Kendall just talked about the convention that the US have, and it's a very, very big convention. I've been myself, and it's very interesting to see thousands of coaches walking around, and so many different sessions have been put on by not only people from this state, but different parts of the world. It's really, really a massive experience as a coach. When you go there, like, wow, you know, so many coaches exist in the world. It's really, really good. Collins, who can you ask your question? Unmute and ask your question, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Morning, Collins.
Morning.
Yeah. My question is, I was listening to your life story with regard to parental attachment and push and all that in the Caribbean, we mostly have single parent home. How do we equate that with the modern day? Because without focus and push, as a teacher I know that people lose their way. They might start well. We have so great players that started well in secondary school, but they couldn't go far. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'll tell you honestly, and this is, I equate a lot of this. By the way, Kendall Reyes was on here. Kendall, you should be doing some of this talking to. It's not, we are the other part of that single. We are the other part of that family. So even though my parents were like that, I was also blessed to have some good coaches. I had a coach in CIC, Hayden Martin. It was the same thing when he was like my next dad, you know? He always made sure that he was on top of me for school. He always made sure to let me know that football is going to take you a long ways. But we are that support system. So even though we have a lot of kids in our country that come from single homes, it's not beyond us to kind of support them and get them through. Like when I talk to my kids right now, I talk to them like that. When I talk to players, even if I coach an older team, I talk to them as if I'm their parent, you know? We are that support system. This is why I'm telling you, this whole coaching thing, it's a lot bigger than just X's and O's. You know, we are a family of adults that are teaching other people. So we're bringing them up and they will never forget you. I can't tell you how many kids have come back and said to me, they're doctors and lawyers and whatever, teachers now, and they say, thank you for what you did with me. So it means that I influence them just like you are going to influence them. All of us on here, we know we have those kids. Some of them are the worst headaches in the world right now, but it's immaturity and it's helping grow them up. And so you are the facilitator of that. And I really believe that.
Just an
That's awesome.
attachment, sir. The second part I wanted to ask is currently now you see most times what is on the internet, social media pressure, trying to be the best. You want to do this, you want to make it quick. And so the next closest option to making it big in football is crime. How do we manage that? Because we see some of them are so good, yet their life is, oh my God, you can't handle them. They will steal out everything in the camp. If they are there, they are disruptive, but they are good. So with your experience, you could tell us how we could manage it. I know it's not static if it's dynamic, but we have to have at least a baseline to work with.
Yeah, well, for me, I don't know. And look, I'm not an expert on every single area of this. I have some experiences that I think I can share that make a lot of sense to me. And I know this may sound harsh, but unless you demand a certain level of discipline and accountability, it doesn't matter how good they think they are, they're not going very far. So if you have a player that's extremely good and he's going to steal in the camp and he's going to do things that he's not supposed to do, maybe this is not the right place for him. Maybe he needs to see that he didn't make it and maybe he needs to come back and say, okay, I'm ready now. But if these kids aren't accountable, they're usually not going very far. Look, I coach Odell Beckham. You know who Odell Beckham is? He's an NFL player, right? I coached him as a soccer player when he was young. And he had a lot of issues with competing and fighting, you know. He's one like the richest top football players now in the NFL, okay? I almost was trying to steer him away from the NFL because I thought he'd be in the national team for soccer, right? But his competitive edge is what got him where he is. But now he's running into difficulties down the road and he's still fortunate enough to make it. Not everybody does that. You know, when you start running into difficulties, a lot of time, if you don't have the discipline and you don't have the leadership, you're going to fall by anyway. But we have to make kids understand that, you know, the discipline part of the game is just as important as their talent. It's just as important. So I don't want to ever say cut a player or delete them from a group, you know. But at some point, as somebody who's in charge and managing the group, as a teacher or principal, you have to say, hey, this is too far, you know. So for right now, you're off the group, you know. Maybe you come back later on when you think that you're ready to actually be more professional. Because unless we start instilling that, it's not going to come. I go in locker rooms all the time, all over the place, and kids are not doing that. Why? Because they have that discipline instilled from early. So you can't manage them all, and you're not going to win every single battle with them, but you have to set and draw a line. And that's the only thing I could say that makes sense to me if I were in that situation.
That's excellent. Thanks, Colin, for those questions, and thank you, Colin, for that answer. Jefferson George, our Dr. Jefferson George in the house.
Thanks, Dion. Yeah, Colin, great interview, great chatting, brother. One of the things that I want to find out is a lot of times in Trinidad, we always believe that, you know, outside is better. And one of the things that I'm getting from you, that there were local coaches that played an influential part. You touched on one of them, Hayden Martin, who I've also worked with. He's excellent. Who are some of the coaches locally who would have influenced you and had that positive impact in your development?
Okay, so and that's a good question. I appreciate it too. Because I don't want people to think that outside is necessarily better. It's different. But what I've learned over the years and realized is that the coaches that I realized that were really influential to me, I didn't know how good they were until I came outside. So they were already there. They instilled it. And I'll say this with all candor, because I never like anything I say to be taken the wrong way. Because, you know, people always take your words and they turn it into something it's not. But I know our culture. I grew up in Trinidad. I grew up with a lot of very poor people, a lot of people who, some of the best players come from nothing, right? So, and then I grew up in an environment where I went to a school with people who have money, who have things, you know, who have means. And the people who influenced me the most was that teacher, Hayden Martin. The one coach that really influenced me was Gally Cummins. And it was because he didn't just understand our culture and how to identify with us. He also made it as a higher level player, and he understand that what it took to get there. You see, Kenwin Cooper was a fitness trainer from the Army. He passed a few years back. His daughter and I still talk. She lives down here in Houston. He actually taught me how important it was to be disciplined, how important it was to never stop training and pushing. And he was a guy, I just never seen a guy who could run without breathing. That man just ran and ran and ran, never ever lost his breath, you know. But he also was a very calm person and talked to me on that level. So I've had some other good coaches. But those were definitely different. They hit something with me. They were different. In that under 16 team, we had, you know, good coaches there too, good managers. But the pieces that always resonate is your ability to teach me, your knowledge of the game, and your experiences. Because when coaches share experiences with me, it gives it value. You know, when someone tells you, hey, I studied this, this, and this, it's completely different when someone says, when I played here or did this, this was the result. You know, you take it with two different weights. So the ones that really touched me were those guys. They just made me understand and feel like, you know, it wasn't just about my talent. There was a lot of other things too. So yeah, we do have good coach. And this is why I'm trying to reach out so that some of you guys realize you have more gifts than you realize you have. You need to keep growing, keep getting experiences, and keep trying to change our culture a little bit. Not change our people, change the culture of how we're bringing up these kids, because we want to develop good kids, but as historically in our country, all we've done is we just go in and take the talent out and try to put it together. We're not, when I'm in a club where everything comes through a hierarchy. So I report to someone else, they report to someone else. And those messages come down the road to me and I pass them down to the other people below me. And in Trinidad, you know, a lot of our coaches believe they already know, or a lot of them think, well, I've already done this, so I should be, you know, on my own island. And it shouldn't be that way at all. We should set a different culture so our players understand these are the standards. I've seen players walk off the field because they're mad they were subbed, take their boots and go home, you know? What kind of culture is that for a player? A player does that here in this club, he's done. He can come back next year, he could go to another club, you know? And I mean, there's nothing special here that we're doing, but that hierarchy is measured and it's sent forth from the top to the bottom, and the players understand it. And that's, I tell you, if we change our culture a little bit more, I think our players will be more disciplined, they'll be mentally tougher, they'll be stronger people, they'll be better equipped to compete against some of these kids out here.
Absolutely. Just a follow-up, not question, but comment. That is, it was a real good to get that type of feedback from you, because again, the coaches on this call, we're looking at you, you know, as someone who was developed locally, went abroad and flourished, right? And I think if we can put people like yourselves a motivation for coaches in Trinidad and Tobago who are working, who may feel, you know, underappreciated, right, with all the type of support. And this is one of the things I commend, you know, Dion, who is facilitating these seminars and so on, to provide that opportunity, right, along with, you know, we now developing the Coaches Association, which again is going to provide support for these coaches who are disconnected. So in that sense, we create a community of coaches who would be, you know, begin to, as you said, change that culture. Because I believe that as an individual, sometimes we look too much towards the member association, in this case, the TTFA, to do something, right? Whereas there are things that is within our power to do, which is, you know, helping to adjust the mindset of the players that we are in contact with. And as each coach begin to do that in the area where he or she works, then, you know, bit by bit, the culture is influenced in that way, you know. So again, point well taken about the local coaches. And again, we are making steps towards creating that support for them, that environment where they can be nurtured and that their strengths can actually, you know, benefit the football landscape of Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you. And the fact that we even on this call says that, you know, the fact that we even could get together and talk about this is something they wouldn't have done 10 years ago. We've never done this. So we weren't really growing. This helps us develop and grow. And I get it, everybody, we all want to strive to be the best we can be. I appreciate that. But in where we are in life now as part of the game, we have to work together. It's like we put together everything for all these kids and all these teams and all these national teams and older teams and younger teams. We're doing it, we have to do it together so that it replicates each other, it's similar. If everybody's on an island, then we're back to where we always were. You know, it's always been like that. Everybody's just doing their own thing. So no, the fact that we're here and sharing ideas, that's, you know, that's what makes us grow.
That's well said, both Colin and Jefferson. That's absolutely brilliant. Dexter Cyrus in the house. Dexter, can you join us? Can you unmute and have your words, please?
Yeah, morning.
Morning, buddy.
Colin, you know, you're touching on
Sorry,
a lot
Dexter,
of
just
stuff.
hold your mic a little bit closer or just speak a little bit louder, please.
Okay. Yeah, Colin, you're touching on a lot of stuff that resonates with me a lot. I also loved football more than food. But I don't know if you know where Palo Seco is, but that's where I grew up. I grew up in Palo Seco. I grew up in a very in a rural area.
Yeah.
Right? You saying you grew up in Santa Cruz. You could have taken a 15-minute ride in a car and get to the city. I couldn't get to the city for an hour and a half. And the city for me was to go to Paria or San Fernando. Right? But Palo Seco was blessed with being a sporting hub because of the oil company, right? Which was at that time it started off as British Petroleum, then it went to Tesoro, then it went to Trinidad, and then it went to Petrotrin, right?
Yeah.
That sporting hub was a magnet for sometimes 300 athletes in different disciplines every day. So when we go to the club, where there are 3 football fields, there's the front field, the main field, the back field. There's also the basketball court at the back. There's the cricket nets in the front where you see the hockey players, and then there's the table tennis boards upstairs and the snooker people playing in the club. So when you're walking into the club, you're seeing all these activities. The actual car park that's being used at the time is the actual netball court to the front. So you're walking into the clubhouse and you're seeing all these activities. I'm talking about hundreds of athletes, right, at the time. Cyclists on the cycling track. Everything is happening. Everything is happening at the same time, right? Sports in that area was everything. You actually could have gotten a job in the company which would have taken care of you for the rest of your life through sports at that time. People used to come on trials every year, trials for Trinidad and Petrotrin and that kind of thing, because you want to get a job. That's how it was at that time, right? I'm just fast forwarding, right? I had my playing career and everything, and I watched you play and everything. You were exceptional. When I started coaching, right, and I realized that when I grew up, I never knew kids with single parents bringing so much issues to the table until I started coaching, right? So now, a single parent when I was growing up would have been able to be mommy and daddy and to a certain level, but the children always had a certain level of discipline. And when I started coaching, the issues with the kids, even though they were single parents, now the discipline factor was missing, and you had to become like a parent. You had to be the one to instill the discipline, because now they actually looking to you for that. They're looking at you to straighten them out in a particular way. You know. It have some boys who I would have coached St. Benedict's College. That's the club, the school team I would have coached, and it's normal for the so-called prestige schools to take quality players from the junior sex and the other schools and that kind of thing, right? When you bring these players into these environment, they're not accustomed to that level of schoolwork, that level of discipline. That discipline is across the board, right? You have to carry yourself a particular way. You have to dress a particular way. When you come to, they have shirt and tie and all those kind of things, right? When you actually get in to realize what you signed up for with these kids, now it's a situation where I'm asking myself, do I cut? Okay, you're in discipline, I'm cutting you off. Now I did that once or twice. The kid is in school, he can't come training, right? The team is totally weakened. All sorts of chain reaction after that. But as I went along, I realized that, it have times that you had to be this kid's brother, but it also have times you have to be his father, and it have times you have to be his friend, and it have times you have to be just a normal partner to him. And it had times that you have to be a different person for one child on any given day. Because now the issues with the discipline is, coach man, may I eat nothing today? We talking straight up reality here. Coach man, me no passage to go, man. Coach man, I can't train today, no, me I eat today, and all issues, stuff. Now we just deal with that at face value, but we're not delving into the fact of what's going on with this kid when he leaves. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're saying something to me, and I'm hearing it, but it goes so much deeper.
Deeper, it's further than that, yeah. And it
goes so much deeper, yeah.
That's a cultural, and Dexter, I know you too. I know you too as a player, and we always would go to training policy, go to the national team, and I always hated going on there because the athletes were scary.
Yeah.
I know what they're eating on there, but they're just bigger, stronger, faster. They were scary. They were athletic. But no,
they didn't have any KFC in them time.
to your point, and this is a cultural thing with us, because I've had it. I've been in minor league teams. We go to play different places, and every time we go, there'd be somebody who didn't eat, or somebody who complained they don't have boots, or somebody who complained they don't have passage to go home. That was like a normal thing.
Right.
And that's okay. As the coach, you are responsible for trying to work that out with the family, or helping if you really want to keep helping the kid. But in building a discipline in the team, if you allow players to do one thing, you have to allow everyone to do it. If you say this kid, he comes to practice and let's say his lack of discipline, he doesn't want to do the running, he doesn't want to do the extra work, then the whole team works. But for what you're talking about there is so much further than just the football part. That whole psychological part of having to deal with that kid is, you're growing him up. You're helping growing him up. You're facilitating, the person that's his role model. And I don't want us to stop doing that. We have to all do that, It's when they become a bad influence on the group, that's when we have to sever the relationship. Because then what you're going to do is you're going to infiltrate the group, and then you're going to have multiple people with that. So if a kid comes and says, look, he talk to me privately and say, look, I do have passage. And I say, all right, what's the situation at home? You try to reach out to the parents, but if you can help the kid, you help them, obviously. But if the kid comes to practice and he's inappropriate and he does things he's not supposed to, then he's breaking down your group. And your group is as strong as the weakest player you have. So having those kind of cultural issues, I get that. I could feel your pain, because I know you probably run across it more in the areas that you're in, than some of us. I mean, the kids coming to play here for me are paying $3,100 US a year just for coaching fees. The kids coming to play for you are coming and hoping that you give them a uniform. you know, and a pair of boots to play. You know, it's two different environments, but the discipline aspect of it, how is that kid maturing every week, every month? Is he starting to change those things? Or is it consistent that he's coming back, I didn't eat today? He knows now he has training. Are you preparing him? Are you changing that? If you feel like you're not getting through to him, I don't want to ever say never keep helping that kid, because you might be the one person that might change his life forever. But you have to see some sort of change in him to be able to continue doing it, you know? Otherwise, he's just using you as a clutch to hang on to get the football part in. And he might be good, but in the team, the entire team is looking at this. Everything that one player gets away with, other players look at it and say, wow, okay, I guess that's okay, you know? So that's a tough sell, a tough situation. And that's a part of the problem home too. It's, you know, it's different cultures and it's different economic environments to deal with, but we have to do the best we can to deal with it.
Let me also make the point there.
Yeah, you go ahead, Dion.
Let me make the point, Dexter, and Nathaniel also just put in the chat. That's the type of people that you guys come across, and Kendall just put in the chat, coaching is caring, because, and that's one of the questions I had for you, Colin, how important it is for us to seek, because people think coaching is just X and O's. How important is it as coaches here in the Caribbean to go out and seek psychology, to understand psychology, and even one of the questions is also on sports science. How important is it to go that further? Is that important?
This is why when I first started talking, I said I didn't realize. I mean, when I was home, it was always cultural, you know, eating and dancing. It was always the athletes, you know, how athletic, how fast, how technical you were. A little bit of your background, but being outside and being around the game now this long, the game is a science now, you know. That's why the games turn into this athletic forum. I mean, I watched Curacao play the other day. I watched what was it, Guatemala. Guatemala could never beat anybody, and that team now is so athletic. Their whole style of play is kind of matching the rest of the world. So, and it's because the games become more science, it's more scientific, but the psychological part is right there with it. The whole breakdown of the player now is different. You don't just judge a player based on what they have to present athletically or technically. The psychological part is just as big, if not more so. This is what I'm saying about building stronger minded players in our country. We have good players, good athletes. Some of them mentally weak. I tell you, when a kid takes his boots off and walks away because he gets subbed, you know, he come to the bench and he mad, he take his shoes and walk away. Or he on the bench and he can't get in the game and he walk away. Mentally weak, psychologically weak. And that's the type of players that we have to change. We have to change that mentality. So it's just as important.
Chris Carrington. Chris, can you ask your question, please, Chris?
Hi, pleasant good morning to the entire panel.
Hi, pleasant day, buddy.
Coach, what are some of the difficulties that you probably, endured off the pitch during your coaching career? Would you share some of those stories?
Off the pitch during my coaching career. Not affiliated with coaching or affiliated with coaching, but off the pitch.
Affiliated with coaching.
Okay. Some of the big things, of course, I am a colored person in an environment, with people of hundreds of different nationalities. And believe me, there are Jamaicans here, Argentinians, Uruguayans, Europeans, there are lots of different cultures here. And a lot of times I thought in games, like when I coach in games, I always felt like my voice, my accent was either positive or negative. There are a lot of English coaches that are here and they're good coaches, but a lot of people give them more credit, you know, because of their accent, right? So off the field, as a coach, I always kind of looked at situations where I'm watching coaching education classes or I'm watching courses being put on, and I feel like I know people that could put those on. We have people that are good coaches. I know a lot of good quality Trinidadians that could put some of these sessions on. But for some reason, I always felt like, man, it's going to be more of a challenge for me to get there than it is for some of these other people. So I know psychologically, it's been a personal battle with me to be better. And it comes back to when you are sleeping, someone else is working. And someone else will have benefits based on what they look like, sound like, or how they can articulate things over me. So personally, as a coach, my biggest challenge has always been be more knowledgeable, be more aware, be able to understand the game, be able to understand the science of the game, figure out what some of these coaches are doing that makes their players better, their teams better, you know, because I know the cultural differences in life will always be a challenge. We will always have challenges wherever we go. But I don't ever like to think of myself as from a third world country or as a Black man or as a multiracial person. I don't, you know, my mom is Spanish and Black and my dad is Chinese and Indian, you know? So when I over here on my passport, it says I'm an other. I don't know what the hell that means. But that's what I'm supposed to say. The immigration says you're an other. But it's cool, you know, but it's a challenge you have. And it's a personal challenge I've had being here and being outside, because I know home, it's okay. Nobody really says anything about it. I mean, people may say, oh, this person is Indian or Black or whatever, but it's way different here. It's way different. And it's more challenging. And it's something that I have battled with as a coach outside of the game that I feel like's helped me be stronger. It's built me up, you know? So if I had to think of one, that would be it.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Well, one of the reasons why I asked that question, because we see what's going on right now within the football realm, where the racial dynamic, you know, we see a lot of racist comments towards players of color. And as a coach, you know, a coach of color particularly, being in that field and hearing these things and seeing some of the comments online, it's a bit difficult to, you know, even motivate your players to go out on the pitch and want to play, you know, but you still have to stay steadfast. And, you know, I just wanted to know, like, what are some of the things that you use as motivation in those instances?
Yeah. One thing I don't do is I don't ever feel sorry for myself. And I don't ever feel like, as a player, I faced that as well. You know, as a player, when I was at Wolfsburg in Germany, they didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. I went to training every day. No one talked to me. Morning, good out, they walk away. No one talked. We played a scrimmage. I had 2 assists. Come back to the locker room. First time, 2 guys shook my hand. All of them could speak English. Everyone. And they started talking to me then. But you still had to deal with that. And you had to be mentally tough enough to deal with it. I try to tell players, because sometimes I get that. We had a camp the other day where a kid is a little overweight and he's a goalkeeper, and another kid keeps saying, you're getting scored on because you're so fat, you know? I pulled both the boys in, and they really wanted to fight each other. And I'm like, listen, first of all, this is your teammate. So you're not going on the road with somebody else. When you go to war, you're going with this guy, okay? Secondly, if you're the guy on that side of the fence, you can't be worried about what everybody thinks about you. You have to just be better than that all the time. So I could get upset like anybody else about negativity, especially about race or color or size. But one thing I've always done, and again, is my background and my parents, is I always kind of put that as motivation. I use that. Oh, so you think my skin color is a problem for you? Well, you're gonna have to deal with me out here on this field with the skin color. You know, I love that. I'm one of those people that don't really talk much in the games. but I love when people motivate me to play harder and do more. So in situations like that, I mean, you can't fix it all. We can't solve every one of those problems, but we can have those kids start understanding you have to use that as motivation. If people think that negatively about you, it doesn't make you stop being who you are. You just have to use it to try and drive yourself forward.
One of our former greats, Leroy DeLeon, he said to me one time, you know, from the South, as Dexter talked about just now, and they went up to play in Port of Spain, and he said one of the fans shouted as they came off the bus, "Hey, country bookie, where y'all come from?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said the place was packed with, you know, those North-South classics. He said the place was packed with thousands of people. And he said, he turned to one of his teammates, I think it was Steve David, and he said, "I'm going to show that guy country bookie." He said, "I think he scored 3 goals in the game." He said after the game, with the thousands of people, he's walking around looking for the fan who called him country bookie. I never forgot that. The things that will motivate us, and you talk, Colin, about that mental strength, you know, that's so important. Gino Diaz. Gino, can you unmute and ask your question, please?
Hi, pleasant good morning.
Good morning, buddy.
Very influenced here today, this morning here by you, Colin. First time I'm hearing about you.
First time what?
My question, I'm hearing about you.
Oh,
I'm hearing about you. First time here,
I'm
but
too old.
really influenced. Yeah, you kind of sell out your age there. But no, you know, Netflix have a lot of series with Griezmann and a lot of famous athletes. You know, I think this is really, to me, way better because, you know, you can actually relate because you're in Trinidad, you know.
Yeah.
So I actually did the, you know, try to make my own academy, do a business plan. And what stood out for me was $250,000 loan out of everything you said, right? And that had to be a big commitment for you. You know, I'm sure your parents would have been involved because that is a major investment. $250,000 back in the day would be a lot more than what it is, right?
I know, and that was US. That's out there.
That right. So
I mean,
my question is that that you actually saw that it wasn't a handout, that if you had to make change, you had to invest in yourself, invest into something you believe in. My that's a question, not really a question, but if you could add to that, because I think my approach, I don't know if any of the other coaches, that we kind of lean on governments, sports support. And I wanted to know if at the time the US, because they would have been developing the MLS, because once you have a good thing going, everybody will want to jump in.
Yeah.
If it was influenced by the US government, your organization in any way, and if governments should take that role, as simple as Dexter Cyrus would have said, for the hungry child, for the child without money to go home, if in any way that could influence your business and what you're trying to achieve.
The US government don't influence anything we do.
Okay.
They benefit from it.
Competition.
Pay taxes, buddy. Pay taxes.
Yeah, they take everything. They take their cut. But there are like here, I could have gone through some different avenues to build it through the government. I could have used, you know, underprivileged. I could have used the area that we're in. I could have looked for grants and loans. I don't know, not because of arrogance, but I thought I had to believe in the plan that I had to build it, and I had to believe the bank would give it to me based on my experience, my knowledge, and my numbers. I mean, I flew around to 3 different facilities over the country, and I watched how they were managed, how they were built. I did a lot of research. I took 9 months to build the business plan. I took it to Tulane's. Tulane had a what do you call it? They had a business plan competition for their graduate students, and I came second out of 9 people. So after that happened, I knew for sure it was going to work. But in Trinidad, if there's a way for our government to support areas like that, like Palo Seco and and some of the areas in the south that may have a little bit people with a little bit less or a less ability to travel to get to places. If there's a way to support that, I think it'll go a much longer way in getting some of those kids out of that environment. Jaden Sanchez, he just signed with Man U, right? He came from an underprivileged area in England, and he has some Trinidad background. But he had support, and I've always said this. I always feel like, especially when I look here, and I always do this when I margin things based on what I've learned and seen, they tax and pay, you pay for everything here. Every single kid pays a fee to the state. The state pays a fee to the association, the national association. Money gets passed here consistently for football, right? And in Trinidad, we do a lot of things where we support the kids, we support the teams. We don't collect fees and dues from every minor league. We should be. Every single player should have an insurance due they pay. Every league should have a fee that they pay to the association to help support underprivileged situations, And I mean, I don't know how to structure it perfectly so that it works. I'm sure that, we have enough smart minds to sit down and say, look, let's find a way to structure collecting some dues from every league that plays, whether it be youth or adult, and every team that's registered in the country, and then push that money back into football, and especially in cases where kids are, underprivileged and don't have means, and also push it back into the national team and the growth.
Yeah, why I kind of brought it up is because if I was to actually use my structure, my business structure, I would only get the wealthy kids, right? Because you have overheads. Yes. And so when you drive around and you look around in savannas, you see a lot of clubs and the children out in the hot sun. How much equipment could you possibly carry on a savanna every day? It is hard. It's hard for the grassroots kids.
That's a good point. In our club, we have like 150 teams here, right? In my club here. And just like what you're saying, what we've done, we invest about $80,000 in scholarship. Okay. So from all the kids that do pay, so you have a lot of your business structure, your plan, you are obviously attracting only the wealthier kids. But if you take portions of each person coming in that can pay, then you build a plan for a scholarship structure for some underdeveloped kids, and you build it up every year. So you can kind of grow it and start bringing them into your club. Because trust me, you need those players too. You know that. You need them too. We need all of them. We need the ones that can afford to do it. We need the ones that cannot afford to do it. But if you have a club and you're trying to manage and run it yourself, you should find a way to set some of those dues towards a scholarship player. And you doing it yourself might be influencing, supporting someone else. So yeah, I mean, it's the same to listen to Dexter about that situation out there.
But
that's rough.
Well, honestly, to be honest, me doing myself is very difficult because I don't even know the price of land in Trinidad.
I tried. I looked at some land down there too, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, our real estate don't go down; it goes up. And I'm talking about the furthest parts of the country, So it is difficult in that aspect, and that's why we become leeches, So like we have the center of excellence. So when you go there, it's like 1 million people there, or like anyone open a facility, and that would be people who actually have investors and whatever. It's kind of hard to. Our countries are really developed in a way that banking institutions are going to support your business plan to have an academy. They're not going to see the return on that.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for your insights because so that coaches, myself could see, okay, it was not politically influenced. It was all your investment and, you know, and your structure. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
It's,
And
it's just different there. It's different. And I mean, it's been like that for so long, and we're not really investing in change. We're doing it now, you know, in this respect as coaches, but as a governing body and Asia there, I don't feel like we've changed enough. It's been so much time that's gone by, and we can have more change, but it takes people, and it also takes the finances. You know, we have so many little parks that are not being used. When I came down there about 5 years ago, I realized that a lot of the parks were lit and nobody's on them, you know? And this is where we have to find ways to get coaches to go in and get in underprivileged areas and get kids out there, just working with them to see where their level is at. But I know now the club's a big business. So, you know, it's a different situation than it is here for sure.
And Colin, you're right. That's part of talent identification because the kids come from all over. Coach Howard Spencer, really happy to have you. Can you unmute and ask your question, please, Coach Howard?
Thank you, Dion. Good morning, everyone. Colin, great presentation.
Thank you.
I just want to shift the conversation a little. Persons get into coaching for a number of reasons, right? And I was listening to Dexter and the challenges that he had, right? And what I've come to realize that your philosophy in life, it guides your coaching, your coaching ability or your coaching experience, right? As coaches, I think we have to decide what kind of coach we want to be, whether we want to be athlete-centered coach, where the child meet, you know, is the center of everything. And Kendares did put it nicely when he said that, you know, develop the person. And then he also said that footballing is caring, right? So I think that our philosophy as regards how we see life and what we do will somehow generate the way we coach. So that's one. And two, Kennel also brought up the United Soccer Coaches Association. And, you know, as coaches, we have to kind of contribute to our development. And I've been trying for the longest while to get coaches from Trinidad to go across to that convention, right? Some have. I know you mentioned Quint Marcel, he goes. Michael Grayson, he's there, and that sort of thing. Could you tell me what you think about that Soccer Coaches Association from America? Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you? Yeah, and because I've been there from 2007. I've gone every year, even if this year when they had it virtually. And you know, I go for meeting the number of Trinidad coaches you actually meet there. It's amazing. Yeah. You know, it's really a convention that, you know, I'll encourage anyone to go to. I don't know what you have to say about it.
You know, a lot of those guys, I mean, when I go, there are a lot of them there, but a lot of them live over here. So it's a little easier for them to attend it. And like a lot of us, our clubs support it. So they send all the directors over there. So if you're a high level coach here, the club, you know, pays for you to go. Like they pay for me to go all the time. But it is something to me, like anything else, it's the closest you will be to meeting coaches from all over the world that know the game at a different level, teach at a different level, interact with them. These, you know, some of these sessions, you know, I was talking to, who was it, boy? This guy from Arima, he's always at the convention.
Michael
Jeremy Short.
Yeah, Jeremy,
and
yes.
Jeremy and I sitting in his thing, and I say, man, Jeremy said, come look at this session. And I say, yeah, I used to do that session about 2 or 3 years ago, you know, or yeah, this session, we've done this one before, you know, and that's okay. And then I see a German guy come in, or I see a guy from Uruguay come in and do a session. I can't understand them because a lot of times they're accents, But when I watch this session, it's something that's informative and gets me to start thinking. And that's not, the sessions are the good part because that's the part we like, the actual football. The part to me that makes me love going is the classroom sessions.
Classroom, correct.
Because when you go in there are a lot of good motivational conversations.
Yes,
A lot of conversations from people with experiences that tells you, I mean, one time it wasn't even about football. It was the coach from Duke.
Yep.
Was in there and he was talking about, you know, the type of players he attracted, why they have success, how they model their program. And I took all that information. I was like, wow, this is someone who has made a lot of money, won a lot. And just something as simple as that tells you, you could transfer this to football, to your club, you know, the ideas, the methodology, the way that they think, what makes them stronger than other teams and other players. So the convention has a lot of good parts to it that can grow you as a person and a coach. And the best part, of course, is meeting all your friends and, you know, seeing everybody you know and conversing with them and having a little good time. But I enjoy the convention all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's worth going to.
Of course. Thank you, Colin.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so, Simon Francis. Simon, can you unmute and ask your question, please, Simon? Oh, Simon is not, sorry, go ahead, Simon. Sorry.
Good morning. Yeah, first time in this session, really impressed. Colin, I wouldn't, nice to hear and actually see you. You would have entertained me a lot during my youth. No, I'm heavily into grassroots coaching. I would have started coaching at the age of 15. I would have been around football my whole life. I'm the last of 19 boys. So growing up would have always been my parents palming me off on one of my bigger brothers who always would have had some involvement in football. So from knee high coming up, the only talk I would be able to talk amongst them is football. So wasn't good enough to make the cut in my generation. So the actual knowledge I had of the game was always an important input. So I got into coaching very young in secondary school because we didn't get any government funding in school to pay a coach. Actually, the PE teacher and myself would have run the senior teams through their paces when I was in Form 4, Form 5, and when I repeated. And in my area, got into coaching because I realized a lot of youths seem to be misguided and lacking discipline. Single parents whom you name the negative challenge was there in my community. So I got into coaching, and coaching takes everything from you financially. Stopped coaching at the age of about 35, and then after I got back into it because I realized the youths in my area gone. So I was telling some guys who I grew up with that if we don't have an intervention now, by the time we reach in our 60s, those youths will be rubbing us blind. So started to coach in the area and targeted troubled young men because for some strange reason, maybe it's an anomaly, the troubled young men in most areas are the most talented. So I targeted them and had a massive turnabout in terms of discipline. Now, my philosophy where coaching is concerned, right now, my team, if you want to call it an academy, has nothing to do with football. Football is just the medium to bring discipline, to bring enjoyment of youth, to bring a holistic change to these young men's lives. Not everyone is a potential criminal, don't get me wrong. Some of them are. And right now, when I started 5 years ago to now, the want to be criminal, the guy who was selling drugs, the guy who dropped out of school to sell drugs, the guy who have a gun home is no more. The only problem, of course, is resources, because I think it would have taken some out of me, some out of my children, some out of my wife to help support this venture. Yes, we see the benefits from it, of course, but there's to get public buy-in, to get parents to buy in, to get the corporate or pooch to buy in is almost nil. Almost nil. Just a few mothers would come and help cook if we have a venture or something like that. But financially, it's me. And as the venture got older, the older boys who are now working, boys who I would have coached 20 years ago, who living in the States, who would have seen on social media that I am back in it, they would send like a guy, Sheldon Francis, sent something like 100 balls for me, send some cones, sends boots of various sizes for the players. You know, a lot of guys who were touched by the venture back then contribute to the venture now, and I am very appreciated. I really appreciate that. My interactions with coaches now is for like growth, my personal growth as a coach, because the more I could put out to these young men is the more successful the venture would become. Again, I do expect to see any of my young men at the highest level, because I would be limited in what I could put out as a coach.
Yeah.
However, when I am on any forum, I look to take material off that forum and try to put it into the venture. I tell my guys from the word go, and you will be shocked to know, I live at South Urupuch. My venture is in South Urupuch. You'll be shocked to know coaches from as far as St. Madeleine reach out to me and tell me, boy, I have these 3 boys here. I think they have talent, but them fellas are no discipline, boy. And I know you just deal with trouble, man. I'm sending them by you. Critics, hang up the phone. Next thing you know, a little after that, young men reaching out to me, parents reaching out to me, because I would put up a lot of stuff on Facebook. And one of a parent of a child in Couva told me the child loves football, the child plays football, but the child is involved in some gang activity in the area. And she would like the child to be part of the program. Let me tell you something, that child almost became my child. The child was 14. So it was hard financially, coming from a single mother, for the child to come down every day, Monday to Friday, when we would normally have training and other stuff. But as soon as a child comes to our program, it's our program because I and the young men. First thing first, just like you as a coach would learn several different ways, I informed them that we would learn via reading, seeing, hearing, and observation. And during our group interventions and group exercises, I would send audio clips to them, video clips, send books for them to read. Then some of the young men in the initial phase would tell me, Coach, I can't read. So then it means that I would have had to, well, I'm a nurse. So when I'm not working, I'm working. When I'm not working, I would be teaching some young men reading lessons, writing, you name it. I had the experience of meeting a young man who dropped out at Form 1, wrote a letter to the Ministry of Education, wrote a letter to his principal, and asked the minister to take him back in school from Form 1. The minister said they will take him back on a quarterly basis because the principal is saying he's a troubled guy, so they'll give it a try. The principal reached out to me after the first 2 months and asked me if I clone the young man and send back somebody else to him. Because it was like yin and yang, black and white. the guy who dropped out of school, that everybody was glad dropped out of school, even students. They couldn't believe that when he came back to school, that is the same guy, totally different. And Colin, your session this morning really inspired me to work a little harder. I don't really study funding as a problem, because I would have written letters all over, and most of the time it's no. And when you do get funding of any nature, it may never be money. It might be 40 cases of water or whatsoever. And I am highly appreciative of anything we get in our venture. And hearing from coaches like you make me realize that for the coaching fraternity to be a better place, it has to be far more interactive, especially in Trinidad. It has to be far more interactive, because each and every coach has stuff to teach. Basically, when you walk into my academy is a 3 at the back, simply because almost every other youth team you meet in Trinidad play with 4 in the back. So we present a different challenge to everyone, because keep on telling the guys that we lack for infrastructure, we lack for resources, so we cannot lack for ingenuity. Nobody could dictate ingenuity. So most of the times I play 3-6-1. Most of the times I play 3-4-3. Most of the times I play 3-5-2. If it's a practice game, I would play with 4 in the back, so that if we ever met at a competitive level and you are expecting me to come back with 4 in the back, you might even see me play with 2 stoppers alone in the back and 7 midfielders and 1 in front. We try ingenuity at all levels to be that more competitive. It has brought some measures of results thus far. I would have carried a youth team in an under 25 competition, and we won. And tactics and tactics is what really carry us over the edge. Again, Colin, thanks. This is the first time I'm on this session, and God knows why I'm here today. Have a nice day, you all.
Thank you, Simon. Very, very inspirational, boy. It sounds like you're like Jesus. You're saving more pieces. I mean, I've done a lot of things, but I mean, the stuff that you're doing, it's amazing, man. It's amazing to hear that people still have that in their heart.
Yeah, that lends to what Kendall was saying about coaching is caring, and that's taking caring to a whole new level, which unfortunately, Colin, is our reality here in a lot of cases. Guys, because of the time, we're gonna go a bit longer, all right? Because Colin also has another event to attend to, so we'll go a little bit longer. So we just if we can get to the questions and as soon as possible. So, Cass Sedano, Cass, can you go, please? Can you unmute and ask your question, please?
Hi, Pleasant. Good morning.
Morning.
What's your question? It's an honor. I must say it's an honor being in your presence. Mr. Lafka himself has been very good at being modest about who you are. And when you started, when you started, you spoke about running to school from Santa Cruz. And I decided to do a little more research while you were chatting on who is Colin Rocke. And as a young person, I'm blown away. I have to say I am blown away. I'm reading an article right now where, I mean, even Pele, he admired you. And that is something you didn't even say. You're very modest. And at the end of the article, however, it stated something. If you mind, I don't read it. From Version Bolai. I hope I'm not the person Godfather, so I hope I pronounce the name at least close or correct. That's not. Oh, I have my son in my presence. I actually brought him down just to ensure that he can see who is Colin Rocke. And it ties.
He's just a normal person.
paragraph of the article. It says those who did not see Rocke play in the 80s and 90s, like myself, missed out on one of the truly great talents to come out of Trinidad and Tobago. When he says he considers himself on the same level as Marcel and Latifi, it's not ego talking, neither is it an exaggeration. Given the chance, he could have earned a place in the history books alongside such local legends as York, Latifi, and Marcel. Instead, today's generation barely know who he is. A generation from now may be nothing, he may be nothing more than a footnote in TT football history. Potential great loss to the masses. Powerful, blessed with an abundance of speed, left-footed, and the ability to play a number position. This is the kind of player most teams will kill for. Right? And I will end it there. And I will say this, to the last part, it's not going to be true because my generation, I now know who you are, and my son's generation is going to know who you are. And Mr. Lafocard, you have a program on Sunday for kids. I just throwing it out there. Maybe you can get Mr. Rocke to come on a Sunday and do a session with the kids and let the kids. All right, so that's my contribution. Thank you very much. I hope one day to bring my son and myself up to your academy just to be there and in your presence and just
Thank you.
Observe.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. Damien Daniel. Damien, can you unmute and ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you, Dylan. Morning, Colin. Before I start looking in the chat, I saw a name, Randafa Abubakar. If this is Randafa, I just want to acknowledge your presence. And yes, so it's very good to see that a player who is on national duty is taking the time to come and be a part of us. So I just wanted to extend the thanks and just say on behalf of myself and the coaches here that we support you guys 100% and thank you for your service. With that said, just wanted to touch on some of the comments made before just by Jeff, Mr. Spencer, and Kendall and yourself, Colin. Some of the major things that you talked about is support. You talked about the structure and organization. And just to provide some context to the membership here, because I agree with you that we have to support ourselves. And as Jeff pointed out, that we do have talented individuals, as Kes just pointed out, both abroad and at home. And supporting each other is very important. So with that said, just want to, in case there are persons that are not aware, there is a coaches association. Jefferson George is the president, and they have been doing some really good stuff. So as we say, organization is a very important part of what we need to do to move forward. So so I would encourage members, if you are not at least to get information on the Coaches Association. And with that said as well, touching on what Simon said about dealing with the grassroots and Dexter as well, the issues with the youth. The fact of life is, in order to move forward, you must face pressure, you must face resistance. So as coaches, we must encourage proper discourse, proper disagreement, not, as Colin said, the coaches, when he went to Liverpool, they were acting as a unit. And being a member of staff as well, and you guys will know that as coaches, as a coaching staff, you can disagree behind closed doors. You can have very, 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 very heated exchanges, but as you step out in front of the public, you are one coaching staff. And that is something that we need to push forward as a coaching community, that not everything is a personal attack. And with that, we need to come to some sort of organization. And Colin, I would like to extend, I won't say it's a challenge, but we also have a WhatsApp group where coaches come together and we discuss tactics and methodologies and philosophies. And Kendall is a part of it. A lot of the membership here are. For those of you who are not, you can get in contact with Dion and he can give you my number, or you can speak to anyone you know to be added to the group. But one of the recent things that's been going on is the discussion among the coaches is how do we share the information? And we have persons who are knowledgeable and are willing to do sessions just like this to share knowledge with persons who otherwise could not afford it. So just to put that out, because information is important, because a lot of persons would be asking questions about something like this, but not know that it is available. So I just want to take this opportunity to share that information, and I would encourage everyone who is a part of either the Coaches Association or the WhatsApp group to let us now try to push that forward and get persons like Kendall, like Colin, Paul Martin, and everyone else in the group so we could try to move things forward. So Colin, thank you. And that's my contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what we'll do, sorry, Colin, what we'll do is I'll have Yale put your email address in the chat. So Yale, go ahead and put Colin's email address in the chat, please. And also Jefferson, Jefferson, you wanted to make a point. Please go ahead, Jefferson, please.
All right. Yeah, morning again. Colin, just to I just wanted to get your feedback on one thing. I know we at an executive level on the Coaches Association we're going through with some of the smaller groups, right, in terms of where we are now. This is personal, professional development. And because you are one of us, I can mention it this morning. Sometimes when we have foreign coaches, you know, you don't want to bring up something like this, but it's just an encouragement for persons to understand that your next interview, right, for a job may very well be via a virtual platform, right? And we have to be very aware of some of the internationally recognized or standardized protocols for doing virtual meetings, right? I recognize on the call, a lot of us, we don't have our cameras on or we don't have a picture there. Now, at the end of the day, I know it's a sharp learning curve. This is something that we just got started in a large way just a year ago, right? But at the end of the day, we have to understand that going forward, a lot of the interactions, particularly if it's somebody overseas on a professional level, right, maybe corporate level, it may be done via these platforms. And going into a meeting with your camera off without a picture is like showing up to an interview with short pants and a vest, right? And that determines how you are seen on the other side of that camera, right? So I just want to encourage us. I know sometimes you may be on the road, you may be traveling, so you choose to not put the picture up. But again, these are things that we have to consider. You know, when you enter a meeting, you don't want to be lying down, right? You don't want to be dressed inappropriately. And we are family here, and we want to help each other to grow, right? Colin, could you speak to that a little bit, please? Because I know there's something that would be...
Yeah, very important point. If you notice, I have to, every time I represent myself in any kind of platform or any forum, I have to have the brand. I don't, like, I wear this BVB, everything I have has to be BVB everywhere I go. I can't have a picture taken of me outside of this representing the brand or communicating anything about the brand or about the game without being in the brand. So, I mean, I got up this morning, the first thing I had to do was go get all the stuff on, you know, so that if a picture is taken of me here, somebody says, hey, it's on social media, Colin is talking about, you know, football and club and experiences, and he was wearing a Liverpool hat, or he's wearing a, you know, a Arsenal shirt. So how you represent yourself doesn't just come with the body of work that you have. And the body of work is huge. Whatever you do between now And as you go later on in life, it's huge, of course, but how you represent yourself is what people see now, because everything is like this. Everything is visual. Everything is online. Everything is sent. Everything is pictures and videos. It's no longer just we're on a mic and you're on the radio like back in the days, you know. You could hear someone talk and not even know who they are, you know. Now you have to represent the brand at all times. So that's a very important point. I know some of the people on here, it's early and they may not be, you know, in a position to, or sometimes you're on calls and you're driving, or you're at work or something and you're just listening in, because I've done that too. But it's important to always represent the brands that you're part of. So if you're in a club and you're on here, you should be representing that club. Everything that you do is not just a cultural thing, it's how life is now. So that's a good point, Jefferson. Yeah.
And I just want to echo that again, Jefferson. That's such a fantastic point. And I say this with the all respect, because we're here to help each other. They say iron sharpens iron, you know, because people who ask questions on stuff, and you know, people lying down and stuff, and it can we bring that professionalism to what we're doing? And that says something about you, because who knows, somebody here we could have a sponsor and say, look, hey, I guess, because I'm sure, look, I think it's Mr. Francis speaking, Coach Francis speaking just now. We had somebody saying, hey, tell me about your school a little bit more. Maybe I can help you with some funding just from this call.
Yeah.
Right? Just from this call. One of the coaches in the state say, hey, Dion, I think I want to help that guy a little bit. And that was very inspirational, what he's doing. That's, as you said, he's a living Jesus, you know. So it's important, you know. Dwayne Davis, can you quickly unmute and ask, please?
Yes, good morning. Colin spoke earlier about understanding culture in terms of implementing the programs and so on, right? And I've been listening and part of different conversations with the coaches in Trinidad, and I don't know why I keep thinking this way, and I guess others not thinking this way along the lines of the schools, using the schools as the development pathway. And as he mentioned, culture, that and even speaking about him coming to the school and different coaches talking about school football, I'm thinking, instead of dividing funds, as we say, the Ministry of Education putting money into sport, the Ministry of Sport putting money into sport, private institutions putting money into sport, sport company putting money into sport, but all of them putting money in different avenues for the same football. So I am thinking, instead of being funded into the different avenues, that we pool all the different sources of funds into the schools, because the schools already have an established infrastructure. Most of them have their fields already. They have the classrooms, the facilities. So instead of putting the money into the different academies, the little things, and then the schools and separating the money, put it in the schools. It could be easily monitored, right? And it is an avenue to improve the level of coaching in school, improve the facilities in school, instead of trying to build new facilities and create new avenues. Let us improve what we have already, which might be more efficient, because we don't have unlimited funds. So with the limited funds, let's try and find a more efficient way to use and implement the programs that we want to implement to better the football in Trinidad. I mean, it will take away some of the individuality, but for the general development of football in Trinidad, I think that is a better way to go.
That's a very political statement you just said. There's a lot of people that are connected directly to how that would actually work, that have different agendas, and that is a real statement. You're right. I mean, I think it'll be more efficient, but there are people whose agendas are different. There are people who want to go out and say, I built this. I remember Mr. Williams, he was the TFA president. When he was doing that facility out in St. Joseph area, I believe it was, he was sending me pictures of the whole thing, the hotel and all that. And I was thinking, man, this is a lot of money. I didn't know Trinidad had money like that to build a facility with all those hotels. And his goal, I understood the goal completely. But I just know maybe another facility could have been fixed, or, fields built around it, maybe something else. But I understand what his ideas were, but I know the agendas of people are always different. So what you're communicating to us right now is, I mean, makes sense, but there are different people that have, you know, to be involved and agree with it. And this is what I mean about us coming together, not just as coaches, but as people. You know, our infrastructure in Trinidad is not great, it's not bad. It's just how we utilize it, how we build it, how we develop it. That's where different agendas always affect its growth, you know? So we have a lot of it's like growing up in Trinidad, we always had the pitch lake, right? We always had that natural resource. And I think now it's gone. Did we sell it? Did we give it to somebody else? Did Japan, somebody come in and take it? But we have all of that pure gold there, but how we using it and how we're building it, because of all the agendas of different people, it levels out, and we don't make the best of it. And coming together, being on this call, having all of the people who are supposed to be in the coaching family, we're the ones that are trying to build football now from the ground up, from the outside, you know? And so this is important, and we have to do the same thing with the administrative part. But yeah, to your point, it makes sense, but agendas can make it difficult. That's just part of the deal.
Okay. And what we'll do, Dexter, I think Dexter, you wanted to ask a question, but if you can, we want to go for another maybe 5 minutes max. So Dexter, do you want to ask a question, or was that one from before? Okay, I'm not sure. So Colin, any final part in inspirational words? You said so many wonderful things, and also so many, but not so, all the contributions were fantastic. Any final parting words for the coaches? And I'm going to take somebody, Colin, give you another engagement, because we need to get the players also to hear you. You know, as Kes did, he went and he Googled some stuff. Because I could tell you, for me, you know, when you hear Colin Rocke playing and certain names playing, you want to go and look. You know, you're going to see something fantastic. I see Jefferson laughing. You're going to see something fantastic, and to see where you have taken it. You know, that, I mean, there's quite a few bit of takeaways for me. Colin, any parting words? Any parting words?
Yeah, just a few words, I guess. I first of all, I appreciate everybody giving me the opportunity. You know, to Kessa's point, I try to live as humble as I can and be thankful for all the blessings. And I do, and just like I went to see Angus Eve before the Mexico game, and then he told me, you know, how he was nervous a little bit. He says they're treating us like if we're underdogs. And I said, you know, Angus, we are as strong as we can be. We can't worry about anybody else. But in our environment as coaches, we have to make sure we follow a hierarchy. I see structure everywhere I go, everywhere. It's something that I feel has made a lot of these more average clubs in the world, more average people on the soccer level, so much better. Just the structure, the organization, the discipline to do things, to work together. And I would like to see that with my own people, you know. I'd like to see it in Trinidad. I'd like to see players, when they get together, even though we love our own brand, when we get together, we know where we're coming from. It's the same place. We want to share ideas. We want to share knowledge. We want to share everything that we can to make us better. And what you're doing, I mean, I appreciate it, because when I was growing up, we didn't have as many people that were working so hard to learn to teach a game, you know, and to help inspire other people. So I don't know, I'm getting older for some reason. I don't know. Since Dion opened up the conversation, talk about his 60s. I thought it was the 70s, 80s, but not sure. Anyway, so I'm getting up there too. But I appreciate sharing ideas with people and sharing my experiences and hearing some of yours as well. I mean, it's like I said before we got on this call, I'm going to learn from you as much as you might learn from me. So we have to continue to be working together to do things, you know, from the administration all the way down to the last kid, all the coaches together. We have to do it together in order to do it well. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. You guys, while Dexter asks his last question, Dexter, you got to be quick. I want you guys to put in the chat what you all thought about. And Jefferson, don't run because you got to say our closing prayer. Or final remarks, Jefferson. You guys put in the chat while Dexter asks his question quickly, what you all thought about Colin's presentation. So put that in the chat, please, for us. And Dexter, go ahead and ask quickly, please.
Yeah, it's more or less a comment, but I just want Colin to know that I have done a lot of research when it comes to certain things and development, right? And the situation that is happening in Trinidad and Tobago is a situation where there's the loophole of only concentrating on football when it comes to youths from when they enter secondary school, right? So now we have the problem of trying to really develop kids properly at the ages of maybe 4 to 5 until they reach secondary school. When that's the time when they need the foundational development. They really need that development at that time, so that when you go into your early teens and the coach starts coaching tactics and that kind of stuff, you're not now learning to control the ball and that kind of thing, right? That foundational development should be way earlier, but that's not happening in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's why we can't create the world-class teenager or the world-class 21 or 22-year-old. By the time we really understand the game and we're ready to compete, we already gone past the mid-20s, late 20s, going there, because we got the foundational development 5 years later instead of maybe 5 to 7 years earlier. So, you know, I don't know if you have some sort of a program that you could share or something that you could share.
Is absolutely correct. I did that podcast, I told you it was about a month or two ago, and I said we have to structurally develop our program for our youth where we are not looking just for results, but to build more technical players. We already have a lot of gifted athletes. We have to build more technical players. It'll separate us from everybody. And it's, I mean, as simple as the English are, everything they do is really just technical. Inside of the foot passes, opening up their hips. Most of their training programs and regiments from the young ages are all technical. I watch games in the academy up to U14s where they don't keep score. They don't keep score. They play in other academies, they don't keep score. Because to them, their IQ, their technical development, their understanding of the game comes first. Because down the road, it's natural. The tactical part of the game is easy when you have the pieces. You don't have the pieces, you can't do it.
So the difference, okay, that's it.
Yes, Cyrus, I'm giving you 1 minute, buddy, 1 minute, because I know, and what I like, Cyrus, you're bringing so much passion because, and Colin started by saying it, this is what we're doing here. We need to do this much more often because this is how we grow as coaches. So this, and I'm not taking any credit. I'm giving God all the glory, but this is what we need to do. So Cyrus, just quickly because Colin has another engagement.
Well, I just want him to know that right now, what's happening in Trinidad, I mean, well, you know, obviously, when we were playing, and when you were playing, Colin, the quality of player that went on to the national team was of a way higher quality, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there was so much more. There was so much more quality players. But in St. Angus Eve in 1994, when they revamped the strike squad and they started over with a new fresh crop, which was myself and Angus and Jaron Nixon and Dwarika and Dean Pacheco and Elcock and Roger and all these guys in there. It had about 7 or 8 top quality players who got dropped from cut from the squad. But what I'm saying is, in order for us to be quality at the age of 19 and 20 at that level, because we went on to be Caribbean champions also. I mean, Caribbean champions, and then we went on to be the Caribbean Professional League champions, which was Trinity Pros in that year, having 5 starters, Trinidad and Tobago players starting on the Caribbean Professional All-Star team. And we had another 4 Trinidad players on the bench. And now, what I'm saying is, if you make the comparison, how many Trinidad and Tobago players, if you have a Caribbean All-Star team, is going to be, how many players are going to start right now? Maybe Kevin Molino and Levi Garcia with a push. Levi Garcia for sure. Kevin Molino with a push. Maybe. I'm just saying. You understand?
We're pushing
the difference,
too much too quickly. We're pushing the players ahead before they're ready.
Yeah.
And in our time too, you have to remember, like when I played it before you, it was everybody trained on their own. There was no human trafficking that we knew about. We were in the streets all the time. We were on the fields all the time. We were meeting tomorrow. We were always technically working on our craft. A lot of things changed culturally and nationally and over the world, but it still doesn't mean as coaches now, we can't bring that back. We have to bring that back to the younger age groups and get them to that point earlier. So to your point, you're right. You're right on point. I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. Mr. Jefferson George, can you give us our closing remarks, please, and send us off very nicely? We have been so inspired this morning, Mr. Jefferson George.
Indeed, it was very, very inspirational. Thanks so much, Colin. This morning, I've been a part of some of the seminars and some of the international coaches and international instructors, and I think you bear my point out very well. You know, you were somebody who you understand our background, right? You understand where we're coming from, and you're able to give your level of professionalism and experience to that. And I greatly appreciate it. I know the coaches on the call have benefited greatly from, you know, your insight, your expertise, right? We as well, you know, we send that positive energy towards you, that you continue to, you know, do the great things that you're doing. I love your philosophical view on it as well, right? I also believe that simplicity is genius, and that's what, you know, we want to create here. The stuff that Dion from the TTFA's end is doing, as you can see, is great at bringing us together and creating that network to allow coaches to plug into, sharing of information and so on. I always see it like a phone. You can have the latest iPhone with all the upgrades, and if you're not connected to a network, whether it be B-Mobile, Digicel, AT&T, Sprint, that phone cannot benefit you if it's not plugged into a network. So the Coaches Association, the TTFA, you know, through Dion and the technical committee, that is what we're trying to do. So we are saying that the things that you suggested, we've begun to work on them. Pieces are falling into place, and coaches are really willing and buying into it. That's something I applaud the coaches, all of you on this call this morning for. All right, so again, thanks very much. And you're gonna close off one time with the prayer?
Yes, and before Jefferson closes us with the prayer, let me just say, guys, couple things. We have put back up these seminars. We have gotten the TTFA to agree to get us some more space. So we have put these seminars back up, but please try to download them on your system, right? All these seminars, and this one with Colin will be up by tonight. You guys put it on your system. They're very inspirational, very knowledgeable. Tomorrow we have Joshua De Silva, West Indies, current West Indies batsman and wicketkeeper, will be on with the There Is Hope from 2 to 3:30. If you can get your players on, that'll be awesome. We have Joshua. Joshua, by the way, played football for a long time, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Obviously, he went into cricket. So if you can get your youth on tomorrow to hear Joshua De Silva, that'll also be fantastic. Jefferson George, take it away.
Father God, we thank you. Thank you for this time we were able to spend as coaches, sharing ideas, sharing the insights, and being educated and inspired by Colin. I pray for him in his endeavors. I pray that you bless him, protect him, guide him from all harm and all danger. We thank you, dear God, for Dion and the technical committee. We pray that you continue to bless them, grant them wisdom and understanding as they create avenues for us to communicate, to share, and to network. But I pray that you would be with each and every one of us and our families represented here. Keep us safe, guide us, and bring us back in the next appointed time. We ask these things through Christ, our Lord. Amen.
And thank you to all the coaches also who contributed, Kendall Rez and all the guys who contributed, and you guys are helping each other. I'm hearing about what's happening in the group chat with Damien. You guys are fantastic. I want to say that again. You guys are fantastic. We want to wish Angasif all the best tomorrow in his game, in his final game. It may not be his final game. You never know. The ball rolls both ways, how things may develop. So we want to wish Angus and thank him for the job that he's doing. And as Jefferson said, we have to cherish our own. So thank you, everybody. We're looking forward to seeing you. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Next week, I will announce as soon as I can. Sometimes, and you guys, let me apologize. Sometimes it's just a question of coordinating these seminars. And so it's not always easy to get the information out on a Monday. All right, I try my best to get it out as soon as I can. So next week we'll be on again next week, and we have some other presenters. Colin, we'll be in contact very, very soon. All right, so you guys welcome. Just put your final remarks. Thank you very much, Stephen. Put your remarks in the chat. Colin, thank you very much. If those guys of you who have your cameras on, let's give Colin a little thumbs up and really show him how much we appreciate what he has done for us today, because he really brought it real. It's very, very inspiring. And oh, there's a thumbs up. You can use the thumbs up like Howard Spencer. So thank you very, very much.
Loving the house, Colin.
Thank you. I appreciate you all. Good luck.
Yeah, Colin, thanks a lot.
Man. Great job.
Blessing.
Thanks, Colin. Be blessed. Hey, how you doing, Jeff? All right.
Thank you very much, Colin. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Colin, next time put on the light now.
Oh my God.
Colin, pay a light bill now. Colin, pay a light bill next time now. Pay a light bill and put on the light. Colin,
all the
put on the light next time. The real light, put on the real light next time.
Right next time. Hopefully we'll meet this morning.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Colin.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Thanks, senior.
Yeah, respect, man.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody.
Hey, gentlemen, have a good day.
Yeah, have a great day. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. All that you guys are doing. Really appreciate it. Keep up the fantastic work. And thank you to Yale also for helping us on the technical side. Again, for a job well done, Yale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Technical Director. Have a good day, man.
So we're gonna give you guys the 10-second countdown, and then we're gonna have to sign off because we have to, maximize the space that we have to store this stuff. So thank you again, everybody. All right.